Today we're going to be going over a gold stock that dropped 30% in a day, why it happened, and what to do. So Centerra Gold dropped 30% in one day after the Kyrgyzstan government passed a law in one day to take over their primary gold mine in the country. They pushed the bill through at a rapid pace, doing all three readings of the bill in one day and then pushing it to the president to be signed. I don't know the exact details of the company, but it sounds like this is their primary mine. They have a secondary mine in Canada and a third mine in development in a different country. So the idea of nationalization. This is a concept that Marin Katusa has been talking a lot about over the last year, that cash-strapped third world governments are going to start nationalizing mines. He believes that investors should focus on positive swap line nations, which are countries that have access to currency swaps with the Federal Reserve. There's also been talks at Peru dramatically increasing taxes on their copper mines too. I believe this could have a domino effect. If the Kyrgyzstan government can nationalize a gold mine, what's this to prevent its neighbors like Kazakhstan or Turkmenistan from doing the same thing? And it's the same thing over with Peru. It's like if Peru can basically, let's say they increase the taxes on the copper mines in their country by 15% or 50%, what's to prevent Argentina or Bolivia or Colombia or any of these countries from doing the exact same thing? So I kind of think that we have a lot of resentment against the rich, and it's kind of like you're gonna have different categories of rich. So these international miners are going to increasingly look like evil capitalists that come in and pillage the third world country resources. A lot of these people, it's very easy to think it's like, oh, the wealth is in the minerals that we have and stuff like that. And it's like, well, is it really? A lot of the wealth is actually from like the expertise and going in and taking the risk and drilling out a project and being able to raise the capital and having the expertise to know how to build the mine. So it's like you might be able to nationalize a mine and you might even be able to keep it running for a while. But it's like, are you going to be able to reinvest that capital? It's like a lot of these governments are just going to be spending it on basically kind of like government or kind of welfare projects and not actually going and trying to build a gold mine and stuff like that. Whereas like private companies are actually having to do that. They're continually having to look for new resources and build that up and reinvest and keep growing. So what we're seeing right now is a rise of political nationalism and populism. So in the US, it's kind of demonstrated by Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. So Trump kind of has an American first platform where it's like we're going to impose trade tariffs and on all kind of goods. So it's like we're going to get goods from China. It's like, okay, we're going to have a 15% tariff or whatever percent tariff. We're going to get hardwood from Canada, all this kind of stuff. We're going to impose tariffs and taxes on it so that we can make it so that our industries are going to do stronger. On the flip side, it's kind of like Bernie Sanders. And he's kind of like the Robin Hood idea. It's like we need to steal from the rich and give to the poor. So it's like we have these ultra rich people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and stuff like that. And we need to take a percentage of their money and be able to give it for universal basic income for the people at the bottom. And I think that it's not just in the US that this trend's going to play out. It's going to be a global trend. And I think a lot of it's spurred by kind of like this wealth dispersity, that the rich are getting extremely rich and the poor are kind of really being left behind. And we kind of forget about the relative poverty. Because what we are is we're relative creatures. We compare ourselves to the other people around us. And if all our friends are richer than us, we feel poor. And if all our friends are poorer than us, we feel rich. And for me, it's like I live with a bunch of university students. And so that kind of colors what my perspective is on my own wealth. But we should really probably be doing is actually looking back at the past like 50, 100 years and kind of seeing what the standard of living was like then compared to now. And it's just kind of like probably one best way would be looking back to the Great Depression and kind of like the food lines and stuff like that. And I think that we've come a long way, and it's good to have appreciation and respect for that. So let's go into the future of miners. So it's going to be very difficult world for the miners to navigate. The price of the product they're selling is dramatically increasing, which will definitely help them keep in business, but governments are going to increasingly make their life much harder. There will be labor strikes for higher wages. There's going to be excess profit taxes imposed. There's going to be the threat of outright nationalization. Ownership agreements will be edged down. So, example of this is, I believe it's Cameco and Kazatomprom in Kazakhstan. And basically, Cameco went in there, built all these uranium mines and stuff like that. And I think the deal was originally like Cameco has a 60% ownership, and then Kazatomprom has 40% ownership. But they basically slowly edged it up. So like they moved up to 45% ownership, and it's like, what are you gonna do? And so Cameco just kind of sits and takes it, and they moved up to 50% ownership. And it's like, what are you gonna do? It's like, are you gonna throw away your whole kind of mine that you mean you built here, or are you just gonna accept that you got a lower percentage of it? And I believe it's now currently 60% owned by Kazatomprom and 40% owned by Cameco. And that's going to be a trend. It's like, I think in the past, like 50, 60 years ago, you could kind of, American companies could rely on that the American government would go in and basically invade these countries and take over the government operations and basically kind of enforce the rule of law for these corporations. But I don't see that really happening going into the forward into the future. It's just not politically feasible. So it's going to be tougher and tougher. And then there's also going to be a lot of tougher environmental regulations. So there might be environmental regulations that were put into effect 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I believe that there'll be like retroactive laws that are passed that change the whole regulations. They basically make it illegal for what you've been doing. So let's say you're following the standard law for the last 10 years, but they put in a new law that increases the regulation. And then they actually put like a penalty on you so that what you've been doing for the last 10 years is now illegal and you have to pay $200 million in fines for that. And it's really just a money grab. It's like they're trying to cloak it as whatever kind of reason, but it's like, no, it's like, we need money, we're going to take it. And it's kind of the Robin Hood mentality with some justification of law behind it. So the rules of the game are going to be continually changing. So what to do as an investor? I learned from Centerra that I have way too big of positions in my portfolio. Centerra wasn't a big one and is a very small one for me. We had bought it because it had been going up. It basically broke the downtrend and started to go up, and it also had very low PE ratio. So we were buying small positions of it. But it made me realize it's like, well, what if one of my big stocks like Northern Dynasty or Grand Columbia had done a 30% drop in a day? It's like, that would be a lot rougher. So I think that doing position limits of like 10% for cash flowing companies. So in this industry, it's basically like the gold miners who actually have a mine in production, having max of 10% into a position for my portfolio for that. And then 5% for development projects. So for basically companies that are trying to get a mine into production. I think it'd also be good to build exposure to different countries. It's just that if you have one country that's putting forward laws, I think that it could affect all of the mines in that country. So it would be good to diversify in that respect. It'd also be good to diversify commodity producers. So like not just copper producers or not just gold producers, but kind of having a little mixed bag of them all. Because it's been a little frustrating that like the oil stocks and the copper stocks and uranium stocks have done fantastically over the past 8 months, whereas the gold stocks have done quite poorly. So if I had more diversification in what I was interested in, that definitely would have helped. And then also even just diversifying in industries. So it could be like doing pipeline producers, or it could even going out and expanding kind of to more traditional businesses and seeing if you can find value there. And it just kind of hedges your risk and stuff like that. So summary, mining is going to become very profitable, but also extremely risky. Just going to be tougher and tougher for these companies to navigate the NGOs and the governments and the kind of like the whole perception of what they're doing. And you want to make sure that you don't overposition yourself in anyone's stock to ensure that you're not overly hurt by events like this. These events can definitely be buying opportunities. After doing the numbers on Centerra, it might be extremely undervalued in the next 2 to 3 months, leaving room for an excellent buying opportunity. It could just be that the publicity gets so negative for this company, and it's just people sell it not even realizing that it's got these other mines and it could still be quite profitable. But you really have to go through and figure out what the intrinsic value is. And I think a good overall lesson is to build a diversified life. Investing should really only make up a small piece of your life, and you should be looking to build resilience in your health, your relationships, and your work. That way, investing losses never hurt you too much. So, yeah, that's my summary of it. Thanks for watching.